Every single great app you've ever used started out as just a simple thought. But how do you actually get from that little spark of an idea to something that people can download and use? Well, today we're going to talk about the crucial bridge that makes it all possible: prototyping.
Come on, you know you have. We've all been there, right? That light bulb moment, maybe in the shower or late at night, when you think of an app that could be the next big thing. And in your mind, it's already perfect. It's flawless.
But here's the harsh reality check. The journey from that idea in your head to the App Store, it's a minefield. It is expensive, it is incredibly risky, and, most of those great ideas, sadly, they just end up as ideas. So why is it such a gamble? Well, it's because jumping straight into development without a really solid plan is, to put it mildly, a recipe for disaster.
Think about it this way. Would you ever start building a skyscraper without a blueprint? I mean, of course not. You'd end up with an absolute mess. Building an app is really no different. You absolutely have to have a plan before you start pouring the concrete of the code.
And that blueprint, that essential tool for success, is what we call app prototyping. It's how you de-risk the entire project before a single line of code is ever written. It's a total game changer. So, what is a prototype exactly? Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a test drive for your app. It's a preliminary interactive model that lets you actually feel how the app works. You can click through screens, you can see the layout, you can understand the flow, all of it, before a single expensive line of code ever gets written. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but can't I just skip this part and save some time? Let me be clear, absolutely not. Let's look at exactly why prototyping is so incredibly important from a strategic point of view. What's really cool about this is how all these benefits are connected. So first, it massively reduces your costs, right? Because fixing a design flaw in a prototype is so much cheaper than recoding a live app. And that naturally improves the user experience because you can smooth out the bumps early on. It also gets everyone, designers, developers, clients, on the exact same page, which speeds up communication like you wouldn't believe. And maybe most importantly, it lets you test your ideas with real users and show investors a working model, which builds a ton of confidence. This quote right here really nails it. A prototype isn't just some demo. It transforms a vague concept into a shared vision. And that's a vision that the whole team can test, they can improve, and they can make sure it's perfectly aligned with what users actually want. Okay, so we're all on board with the why. But what does this process actually look like in the real world? Let's walk through the step-by-step roadmap that takes you from a blank page to a finished blueprint. The whole process is actually surprisingly logical. You start with the big picture stuff, defining your goals, researching the market. Then you move into the structure, sketching out these simple outlines called wireframes. From there, you build it up in layers. First, a really basic, low-fidelity prototype just to test the core flow, and then a high-fidelity one that looks and feels just like the real thing. Now, the most critical part is the feedback loop. You test it with users and you iterate on that design. And only after it's been polished and approved do you hand it off to the developers. Okay, as you dive into this world, you're going to hear a few key terms thrown around. So let's just make sure we're all speaking the same language so you know exactly what your team is talking about. So people mix these up all the time, but it's actually really simple. Think of it like building a house again. The wireframe, that's the architect's blueprint, just lines and boxes showing where everything goes. The mockup is like the interior designer's rendering, a beautiful but totally static picture of what it'll look like. And the prototype? That's the interactive 3D model that you can actually walk through and open doors in. See the difference? And here's the best part of all. You don't need to write a single line of code to do any of this. Incredible tools like Figma, Adobe XD, and Sketch, they're built for designers, entrepreneurs, literally anyone with an idea. They're mostly drag and drop, which makes this entire process accessible to pretty much everyone. Now look, just having a prototype isn't quite enough. To make sure it's actually doing its job, there are a few golden rules. These are the real keys to success that you're absolutely going to want to follow. It all really boils down to this. Stay focused on the user, always. Start simple to test the core idea before you get lost in the visual details. And please, use real content, not just dummy text, to get honest, useful feedback. And most importantly, treat prototyping not as a single step, but as a continuous cycle of listening, refining, and improving until that experience is absolutely seamless. So, we've seen how prototyping turns a risky gamble into a smart, strategic investment. It takes an idea from just a concept floating around in your mind and makes it a tangible, testable reality. So, the question isn't if you should build a prototype. The real question is, what's the first wireframe you're going to sketch to bring your big idea to life?